Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. All right. Hope everybody had a great weekend and that you had some chance to be creative and enjoy the outdoors if you live somewhere where you get nice weather. I know the middle of the country Tennessee and some of the areas down there are getting some rough weather, so I hope you all are staying safe. Today we are going to do our drawing for week 20. We'll see what the cards want us to make this week, what we'll be making Thursday at noon Pacific. We'll also make some ear cuffs. I actually, Betty over, who's friends of ours and also friends on Stars Beads, was asking about ear cuffs, and we haven't made any in a while, so I think we will make ear cuffs today. Hey Marianica, thanks for joining me. So we'll get started shortly. If you're watching the replay, please let me know you're out there. Let me know that you're watching, and if you haven't already, please like and follow us at Desert Cat Creations, as well as subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Our goal this year is to get over 50 subscribers on YouTube so that we can so that I can broadcast simultaneously over there or do live broadcasts. I am transferring all these videos over to YouTube in the meantime, but they just won't be live. You can still interact with them and comment. I will see your comments and all that good stuff. So business out, well, not quite the business out of the way. Just a reminder, because we will be rolling it into our card deck in the next couple weeks. We do have our new Desert Southwest collection out there, so we have a new deck of cards. These are Southwest themes. The themes are from the culture, the nature, and all that in this area around the Desert Southwest. And we also have 2 bead mixes that go along with that if you want them. We have a crystal bead mix. The crystal bead mix is inspired by all of the spring desert blooms, all the cactus blooms. I'm calling it my desert blooms, although it's primarily cactus bloom colors. We have a video out on both YouTube and our page showing you the inspiration, the blooming inspiration for this bead mix. It's mostly crystals from Beadoria, but there's a few metal beads in there as well. And then we also have our Desert Southwest metal mix. This is a collection of charms, beads, and buttons, all with a Southwest theme. There's a couple things in here that are just rounds because I wanted to give you a variety of finishes, particularly copper, because copper is used a lot in Southwestern designs, but you do get a mix. And so the bead mixes are $12 each. The cards are $16. If you get any 2 items, you get $2 off. And if you get all 3, you get $5 off on our bundle price. So, and to order those, just send message to Desert Cat Creations, or you can comment on any of these videos, maybe say bin bead mix or bin bundle, just let me know, make it clear enough, and I'll be in touch with you. So anyways, those can ship out at any time because I do have them in stock. So that will be our only deck that I'm going to produce this year. We will have more kits and possibly bead mixes throughout the year, but I do not necessarily plan to come up with another deck this year, but you never know. So, because I have ideas out there for future decks anyways. But all right, so we're going to do our drawing today, see what we're going to make this week. Hey Janelda, thanks for popping in. I hope you have a safe trip home. So we're going to do our drawing, and then like I said, we're going to discuss ear cuffs because we haven't done that in a while. And I'm going to show you how to make them, as well as just some other design options with them. I am wearing some ones we made last year. I think these were the first ones we made with ear cuffs. So let me flip the camera over and let's get our drawing done. Come on. There we go. Come on. It's not letting me zoom smaller. All right, I'm going to flip that again, and then I'm going to try and see if I can do a little better. There we go. I think that's better. Okay. Let's get our stuff on here, and let's see what we've got. All right. So, those of you new to Bead Stash Challenge, this is a series of card decks, and they are designed to help you use your stash. That's the primary thing, actually. But it also helps to get you thinking about new designs, making things that you might not think about, and just to trigger your creativity to try something new. So there's 3 types of cards. First, we start with the make cards. Now, there's currently 4 decks shuffled into here, although I've been using them so far this year, so we're minus 20 or 19 cards because this is week 20. We have 5 decks available now. So we have the base deck, which is deck 1, which you do need to work with the other decks. That said, our Sun and Sea deck, which is also available, as well as our new Desert Southwest deck, have cards from all 3 types, so you could use them by themselves. It's just you'll have a very limited amount of projects and cards to choose from, but it can work it. But deck 1 is our base deck. It's $15. It is a full deck, and it is designed to work with, people at any level. It has a limited number of types of beads to use and all that stuff. Then we have the color deck, which adds everything color, and the findings and non-jewelry deck, which we work a lot with. Then the findings and non-jewelry deck has mostly make and use cards. So every deck's a little different. Last week's project was this bracelet helper, and that's from our non-jewelry and findings deck, which reminded me I wanted to show you guys something, a couple things that I came up with afterwards. So this week apparently we're going to make an ornament. So that's a card from our non-jewelry and findings deck. And then our next type of cards are used cards. So the used cards are what force us to go looking through our stash to see what we will use in our project. You can draw as many or as few as you want. So I draw 3. I think it's a good level of challenge to work with 3. So we are going to use seed beads in our design. We are going to use stretch cord. This makes things a little interesting. And we're going to use memory wire in our design. Okay. Now, I could put one of these back if I really thought it didn't work. So, stretch cord maybe not the best thing in an ornament, but we can certainly make it work. I'll leave it for now, and if it gets too complicated as I think about it, we can always switch it out. So if you're at home and you're using your cards and you draw something that either you don't think makes sense, so using both memory wire and stretch cord, not necessarily making sense, but for an ornament it's a little different than if I was making a piece of jewelry, right? So I'm willing to take the challenge and give that a try. But anyways, if you draw something you don't have, just stick it back in the deck and draw again. Or set it aside until you have that thing back in your stash. Now, all of these cards, I believe, are from our original deck. So, and all right, the final type of cards we use is what we call challenge cards. Now, these are what add, like, it adds a theme to your design or a design challenge, or just something to make it a little different, maybe push you out of your comfort zone a little bit, right? So we are going to make a design with at least 7 different components. So, all right, so that's also from our original deck. So again, non-jewelry deck, original deck, original deck. So this week we will make an ornament. We'll use seed beads, memory wire, and stretch cord in our design. And we'll have at least 7 different components. Now, components includes stretch cord, memory wire, and beads, right? So all of those are components. So we don't have a theme here. We can do whatever we want as long as it has these components. So, you know, if I wanted to, because this is a design aspect as opposed to a theme, I could draw a second challenge card to see if it gave it a theme. Maybe we'll do that. Because, you know, that adds to our challenge. So I am going to draw a second one. So I'm going to design in something inspired by Tiki Bar. Now the Tiki Bar is from our Sun and Sea deck, obviously. Last year we had to make a sun catcher, or Tiki Bar inspired sun catcher, and we ended up making this. So I made a sun catcher with an umbrella. So that was my Tiki Bar inspired sun catcher. And, you know, quite honestly, you could use this as an ornament. Doesn't have to be a sun catcher, but, you know. So that was my Tiki Bar inspiration from last year. So we'll see. So anyways, you can, like I said, you can draw as many or as few cards as you want. Now, obviously, if you draw more than one make card, you're making more than one project. So I would probably draw only one make card at a time. That said, if you draw something like make head pins, you could draw a second make card to see what you want to use those head pins in if you don't want to just figure it out on your own. Because sometimes when you draw the other cards, it'll lead you towards a specific type of project. But not always. Sometimes you may need a little push getting that in. So, hey Lorraine, hope you're feeling better. So, let's see. I wanted to show you a couple things from our past couple weeks projects. Just that I had been continuing to work on. Where is it? Oh, okay. So last week we made this bracelet helper. And, you know, I like the clips, but I was trying to think if somebody didn't have a clip and they still wanted to make one, how could they do that? So what I did was I made one and I just put a little hook on the end. Now, I did figure out that you have to make this hook fairly narrow. I don't know if you can see that. In order to hold on to the end of the bracelet, because, you know, it has to be able to grip something, but it does work. Now, I didn't try it on a whole ton of different bracelets, but you can do it. Do a small hook, again, if you don't have the alligator clasp. And then, you know, I just used wire wrapping and beads to make the rest of this. And I used 18 gauge wire, I think. I'm going to use 20 so that it's stiff and not loose. But just wanted to show you that. And then I wanted to also show you, I did finally finish my homemade toggle. So this one I did wire wrapping. I made 2 loops. And then... Okay, so this is my 3rd try for the toggle. So my first toggle is somewhere in my room and I can't find it because it went flying across the room when I was pulling on the wire and it broke. So at some point I will have another toggle, and I looked and looked and I couldn't find it. So then I made a second toggle, but this toggle had a little issue. I made the stem too long, and it won't actually fit through my loop. Now it would fit through this bigger loop that we used. So that's something to keep in mind. Your end of your loop to your top of your bar needs to be able to fit sideways through your loop. So I know it's sort of a no-brainer, but when you're making it, you're thinking, oh, I'm making it fancy, I got it big enough. You have to keep that in mind. And then to make sure it stays secure, again, you want the toggle bar, so from the middle, from your stem to the edge of your toggle bar needs to not be able to fall back through at its shortest point, right? Because otherwise that's how your toggles come off. So you want it a little longer. This one's kind of close on that side, but I don't think it would go anywhere. So at some point we will make a project doing that, but I just wanted to follow up with you and point out that you have to pay attention to the stem, but you can make a fancy kind of handmade toggle bar. Maybe some of you have made them before, but I haven't. So anyways, I'm glad you're finally getting better, Lorraine. There's a lot of, you know, summer colds and various things coming around. So I went back and forth on what I wanted to make today. And then Betty Doyle, our friend, also posted something about ear cuffs and wanting to know about making ear cuffs. And I was like, we have made them. Now we've made them twice. Those videos I did not transfer over. But I thought we'd just make some ear cuffs today. So this was one of the ones we made in the past. So we've got ear cuffs. I have them on this card and I have them hooked on there. So I'm not going to pull that off right now, and then I'm wearing some, but I want to show a couple of different design options out there, and maybe we'll make a couple of them. So here's one, and you know what? This also gave me a chance to pull out my silicone ear models, which I still think they're hilarious, but so we can make this kind of design, which allows you to put a dangle on here, and you can actually make it so that you can change out the dangles. So this one has a little charm hanging off of there. Now here's another design where I wrapped a piece of turquoise on there, and then I had a little just design, squiggle design hanging down from there. So we may make something like that. This kind, which here we'll pull that off. Let's put this on here. I think they're a little easier to see. So you can make something like this that's just wire with lots of squiggles. Okay. A couple different designs there. Here's another one that I had put some rainbow hematite beads on there, and it just adds a little color. This one's kind of small, but it allows you to just have a little color, and that one's great for wearing with other earrings. Oh, this is one that we made during one of our videos. And that's just the simplest form, right? So you've got two loops and that. Now I want you to know that some of these do have to be worn. So like this one can only be worn on your right ear, because otherwise it would be upside down. Whereas most of these other designs I've showed you so far are, you can hang, you know, they can go either way. So you can use them. And I've got things all tangled up in here. So. Oh. Put this guy on here. That one's a little tight. Anyways, there's that one. Little squiggles. I think we made that one on a video with some reason I remember making ear wires with K on the line. All right, let me take this one off. And we'll talk about fitting these in a minute. I'm just going to show you, I want to pull out one more design here. So this is another one of our ones that you can change out the dangle on. So we've got our cactus bead there because, you know, we are Desert Cat Creations, right? So one of, and you know, it's funny, I just pulled out randomly what, so some of these I've made it pairs, so you can wear them, these matching ones on each ear. These things are great for people who don't want to get their ears pierced, or for whatever, you know, their earlobes got ripped from years of wearing too heavy earrings, or their holes have closed up, whatever. So this one I also put a bead in the design, you know, as I was pulling that up. And then one more thing, and this one is all, I don't know how this got all tangled. I don't have a good way of storing my ear cuffs, obviously. So let's see if I can get this to come. All right, I think we got it there. All right. This is also a fun one, which is one-sided. So it's very similar, obviously, to the ones that we were adding a dangle to, but it's pretty just by itself. And then this last one I wanted to show you is, you know, unfortunately they call it a slave style, but I think there is another name for it. But basically you can put a chain and attach it to a regular earring, and then you just have that chain dangling, and you can have something hanging from the ear cuff as well. I don't have holes in my little ear models, so I can't show you what this looks like on there, but just to show, you know, you could attach it to a regular earring too. You know, that's great if you're nervous about losing things, but anyway, so let's see what we want to make. Let's talk about these a little bit. So there's a couple of dimensions that are important when you're making these. So the part that goes around your ear, that's the most important dimension because everything else can be adjusted, right? So tip to tip, or you want it to be 1.25 inches, unless you have, you know, if you have a really big ear, you know, everybody's ears are different. So if you have a wide space here, then you might want to make it a little bigger. Or if your ear is very narrow, you want to make it smaller. Too small is harder to deal with, although large, I mean, they are very adjustable. But anyways, so to make just the little, all right. To make this guy, which is your simplest one, but you can dangle something from that, you need 3 inches of wire, okay? So obviously for all these others, you need something longer. So it's totally up to you. Now I recommend using at least 20 gauge, and I actually prefer 18 gauge. Like this one's made with 18 gauge, so it kind of shows up, whereas I think this one's made with 20 gauge, and it's a little skinny, and it'll bend. So anyways, that's where we're gonna go from there. So let's start. We'll make just the basic one with the small loops. So we're gonna start with 3 inches of wire. And the other thing, you really don't need much tool-wise, right? So you'll need a pair of cutters, some wire. It's nice to have something, you know, like this looper, the 6 size looper, and or some chain nose pliers can be helpful. Or you can use round nose pliers, probably for the whole thing. But and I like to have a Sharpie. So remember, so with our middle part needs to be 1.25 inches. So this is a little over 3. And you want that 1.25 to be pretty much near the middle here. So I am going to mark at the 1 inch and then at the 1.25 inch, okay? And then what I'm going to do, and actually, well, I'll use my looper, just to keep it simple. So I'm going to take the smallest loop, and I'm going to set that mark right in the middle. And then make sure you're bending the right way. So the loop that I'm trying to use, which is the small loop, I am going to bend this down. Sorry. So that I have kind of what looks like half a paper clip, right? So we're looking at that. Then I am going to take the other mark, and I'm going to do the same thing. Now I'm going to be bending in the opposite direction that I did with this one. So I want the the turned up edge to be away from where I'm bending it. So when I bend it, I now have, a large, long S shape. Now, you could certainly, at this point, and since I'm using 18 gauge, it's not as critical, but if I'm using 20 gauge, you definitely want to work hard in this by hammering it a little bit. I also like to, I don't want these loops too big, so I kind of crunch them in a little bit using my whatever pliers I have handy. And then all you're going to do is you are going to grab one of the ends that sticks out, and I'm going to take my round nose pliers, and I am just going to make a loop. And your loop can be as big or small as you want. But you'll see that my ends are not the same. So, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So I have 2 loops, and then I have basically an S, right? So now you just need to decide, I mean, in this case, this one will be reversible, so it really doesn't matter. But so your shorter side is what's going to go around the front part of your ear, and the longer side is what's going to go around the back side of your ear. Okay? So like this one, it's reversible, so it doesn't matter. Now, if you're using the 6 looper, I'm going to use the second to largest one for the one that goes inside the ear. So I'm going to stick it in the middle, and then I am going to press this around until my loops end up the flat part, right? So I'm not making a full loop. I'm just making a curve like that. And then on the other side, I'm going to use the bigger one. Now, I've seen people that bend these around a Sharpie. You could do that. You're going to have to adjust it a little bit, but, you know, it would certainly get your turn in there. But I'm going to use the biggest loop on my 6 looper now on the other end, and you want to bend it towards, so they're both going the same direction. And you're going to do a little adjusting, but you end up with, you know, a big C-shaped thing, right? With one side sticking out a little longer than the other. So your side that's in further, that goes around the front of your ear. The side that's out goes around the back of your ear. And I'm just going to straighten these guys out a little bit. Now, if I wanted to, I could put a dangle on one of those ends. Once I add the dangle, then it does tell me which ear I have to wear it in, okay? But then let's show you. So we have a completed ear wire here. So to put it on your ear, you take the opening, which may be open a little too far right now, but we'll adjust that. You stick it over this top part of your ear, and then you slide it down. And I will say, when you're putting these on, especially for the first time, when you're sliding it down, it can be a little bit painful, but once you get it in this place, unless it's adjusted too tightly, it will sit comfortably, and you will forget that you have them on, because I always forget to take them off too. Now, you should be able to just kind of pull out a little without it coming off. So you should be good, right? Now, if you're putting something heavy on here, you want to make sure that it's fitted very well. But that way you have just a really basic ear wire. So let's make the one now with a curly Q at the bottom, so that you can add or take off dangles as you want. So depending on how big you want your curly Q, that will impact how much wire you need. I'd probably do, I'm thinking 5 inches should be adequate. We'll see. I mean, if anything, it'll just make our curly Q smaller. So I'm going to cut 5 inches of wire. Like I said, it really doesn't matter what kind of wire you use. If you have people that are super sensitive to wire, make sure you're using good wire. I'm using Softflex today, which is lead and nickel free, so most people don't react to it. Since it's not going in your ear, it's just going on your ear. It's on the outside of your skin. You know, it shouldn't be a problem for most things, but just something to keep in mind. So in this case, I want just a loop at the top, and then I want a curlicue at the bottom. So I'm going to, once again, I'm going to mark at the 1 inch and then the 2 1/4 inch. So that gives me my 1 1/4 inch center. And again, at this point, it doesn't matter which, I'll use my looper again. It doesn't matter which which ear you're going to put it on, because you don't have to make that decision yet. So again, I am going to put that mark in there, and then I am going to just bend my wire, both sides of the wire down. Right? And then we are going to stick it on the other mark with, the side sticking up. And we are going to bend both things down. So we have, again, we have our big S, and now I've got a longer tail here that I can make the loop. So again, on the top, all I'm making is a small loop, so we're going to make a loop, turning it out from our design. So loop at the top, see? And now for the bottom one, we are going to make a loop. Whoop. Sometimes it's a little hard to get things started, right? Now I'm making a swirl here, so I can close that loop in, or I can choose to have a completely open swirl. I find with swirls, the easiest thing is to, once you get that first loop, then you take a pair of flat nose or chain nose and you hold them and you just slowly bend the wire, leaving the amount of space you want in there. Now, remember, this is wire, so it's all adjustable. And we're just slowly working it back towards here. And you want that sort of, to kind of line up. Now, they're not exactly lined up, but that's okay, because remember, one side is shorter than the other, right? So at this point, you could hammer that. I am going to, again, tighten up my bends a little bit on this end before I choose, but now I do have to decide what ear I am going to wear this on. So if I want it on the, let's see, this is my right ear. If I want it on my right ear, the small side is going to go forward. Some people always wear them on their left ear. Some people wear them on both ears, so it doesn't really matter. But so if I wanted it on my right ear, I need my the shorter end, which is this one, to go back that way. So I'm going to take this looper and I'm just going to turn it until I have a nice letter C in there. And then again, we can use the bigger one, and we're gonna go do the same thing with the other one. And like I said, you can always adjust these. Let me see if I have. Now, one reason for leaving that open is now I can add a dangle if I want. Let's just show you what this looks like plain. So I think that's sort of a fun look there. And, you know, you could still wear an earring with it, and it's just adding a little extra bling to your ear, right? Now you could put beads on here. I'm gonna have to play with that design a little. You can add a dangle. So this is it's a good one for a dangle. I think I had a dangle left over from something here. We'll just pull it out and use it for this today, just to show you. So if I wanted to add a design on here, I can hook it on here. So just hook that around the loop. And then you want it, you know, you want it to dangle at the bottom, so you're not going to keep it up there. Since I didn't have that adjusted quite right. I didn't have it open enough. Now I do find if that's too open or your design's too short, your dangle will come off when it's just laying on the floor. It won't come off while you're wearing it, but again, so you want the short side inside your ear, the long side outside. You slide it down, and then once you hit this little part of your lobe, and there's what it looks like with a dangle. All right. So we'll do one more, and we'll do the swirl at both sides. How's that? So for that one, I think I used around 6 inches. You know, depending how fancy you want it, you could do more, but we're gonna do, you know what? I think I will do a little more. We'll do 7. Why not, right? So for this one, which so we're gonna make something along this line that has a design that goes up and a design that goes down. Okay. So I want my 1.5 inches. Yeah, the dangle does make it fun, but like I said, plain works too. So for this one, I want the 1.5 inches somewhere near the middle. So I have 7 inches. So if I do like from, I'm going to do 2.75 to 4 1/4. Right? No, that's not quite right, is it? All right. All right. I think I accidentally made it a little big, but sorry. Having troubles measuring today. All right, let's go there. All right, so again, we're going to pick the middle, and we're going to bend both ends of our wire down on this one. And then we're going to stick it on this other one. And we're bending it down and bending it down. So we have our big S, Z, whatever in the middle. So this is the part that goes over your ear. So from here to here should be approximately 1.25 inches or larger if the part of your ear is a little bigger. Like I said, everybody's ears are a little different. Then you want it a little bit bigger, but now you just have to, like, so if I want to make I'm just going to use my chain nose here. So you want your design to sort of end up dangling from the middle here, right? So I am just going to hold on to that wire, and I'm going to use my other hand to bend it around. And you can use whatever design you want. Your little zigzags, you could use circles. Now, when I get to the end, just because I don't want anything pointy, I am going to do a loop at the bottom. And I could have done that first. Maybe I'll do that first on the other side. But anyways, so I've got some zigzag here. And I'm not too worried about the fact that it looks a little wonky right now, because we will be doing it on the other side too. I'm going to go ahead and this one, just because I have my pliers in my hand, I am going to do my loop now. But again, I want my design to start somewhere in the middle, so I am going to, twist it. And like I said, you can do what, this is all freeform. Okay, now, so by doing my loop first, my loop is going the wrong direction, but you know what? This is a wire. I can flip it around. Although, actually, now I'm kind of wishing it went the other way. That's okay. Well, flip it back around. All right. I wouldn't advise that too much, because so this looks kind of crazy right now, right? So now though, I just kind of use my pliers and I pull these pieces together a little. And like I said, you can make this design however you want. I like it to be a little curvy. So it still looks a little stretched out, but one part's going to go up here and one part's going to go down your ear. Now, it may be hard to see, but this one is the shorter side. So I am going to stretch this out of the way a minute while I bend that around. I think I'll do the same thing on the other one. Now the good thing is, if your squiggle design is kind of random, which it should be, that ear wire or your ear cuff can go either direction. And now I can bend these back. And, you know, I could add beads on there. I could sew them on there. Now, to me, since I sort of made it curve, I think that kind of goes with the curve of your ear, right? So I'm going to put it on. This is a left ear. I should label these because, and you'll see, you know, it could use a little twisting. All right, let's try that again. So again, we're putting it over the top. We're sliding it down until it pops in there. And we have sort of a crazy squiggle for our ears, okay? And you could still put a dangle on either end, although again, once you do that, it has to go on a particular ear, right? Whereas right now, this can go on either ear. Just remember, the small side goes in the ear, large size goes outside. So if you put it on this ear, it's going to hang a little differently. But you could adjust it. Some people, like if you work or you talk on the phone a lot and you primarily talk on with your phone to your right ear, then you'd want to wear your ear cuff on the left because they can kind of get in the way, or vice versa. If they're small, they're not going to bother you when you're talking. But so anyways, I think that one actually came out a little better on the left, just the way that thing curves. So, but there we go. That's 3 different designs. Guess we took a little extra time today, but that's okay. So we have your very basic, which you can put a dangle directly on that. We have your interchangeable, because this you can just roll right off and then put something back on there. Once you pick this design, you would have to make one for each ear, or for the specific ear that you wanted to dangle it on. And then we made the squiggle one, which can go on either ear. So your basic takes 3 inches of wire, and remember that middle part is 1.25 inches, 1.25 inches. For the swirly one, I did 5 inches, and the top side I started at the 1 inch mark to do measure out my 1.25 inches, and the rest of it became the swirl, so you have a long side. And then for this one I used 7 inches, and you want to put the ear part that goes around your ear somewhere in the middle. So there you go. That is our refreshed tutorial on ear cuffs. All right, so just a reminder, this week on Thursday we will be making an ornament. We'll be using memory wire, stretch cord, and seed beads. We're going to use at least 7 different components, and it's going to be inspired by a tiki bar. So that will be fun. I don't know what we're going to make, but we shall see. All right, let's see. There we are. Yay! So that was fun. That was a refreshed tutorial on ear cuffs. So these ones we made back early on last year. I made a matching set with these long earrings, right? And the ear cuffs, though, are very different. I know it's hard to see. Oh. But see how I'm wearing them with earrings, and it just adds some extra bling to my ears, because can we ever have too much bling? And like I said, if you want to add extra bling, but you're not one of those people that has multiple piercings in their ears, you know, you might want to consider ear cuffs. And they're great for, you know, maybe young people, or somebody who, like I said, if somebody who has very small lobes, or somebody who, for whatever reason, doesn't have pierced ears, doesn't like clip-ons or something. Anyways, they're a lot of fun. I forget to wear them sometimes, but they are fun. So, thanks for joining me. Once again, please like and follow us on Desert Cat Creations on Facebook, Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube. Like I said, I am putting the videos out there on YouTube. I have transferred the ones from last year and earlier this year that I thought were kind of unique projects. There's only one I'm sad about that I lost from March this year that I wish I had uploaded, but I'm sure we'll use the techniques again in the future. Since Facebook only stores videos for 30 days now. If there's something that you want to watch after 30 days, you'll have to check on it over on YouTube. And if there's some project we did last year, as long as it wasn't March of this year, that you would like me to transfer the video over, let me know soonest, because I think I have until sometime in June to save any of those videos from last year. But you know, we made a lot of bracelets, necklaces, and stuff using common techniques that we use over and over again. So a lot of those I did not load down, or did not transfer over, just because it does take time. So, all right, I'll see you Thursday at noon. Thanks again for joining me. Have a great week. Bye.